So our relationship with animals is constantly evolving. For the longest time, science could just never accept what most pet owners know, is that animals think and feel, but proving that they have thoughts and emotions is a lot of what this work is about. The question for me next is really about, over this 10,000 years, how does an animal that's intended for the dining room, how does it go to the living room? Thank you. You're very kind. And it all started for me when I bought a haunted house. It's true. That's what the neighbors told me, but it was after I bought the house. Here's a photograph of it. The previous tenants had heard all this scratching and kicking and rumbling and creaking all around the house, and they thought it was the ghost of Edgar Allan Poe, who lived in the neighborhood where I live now. So I did what any sane person would do. I called an exorcist. His name was Mike Hughes. And he's a trapper and a specialist in nuisance wildlife. So he managed to get all the ghosts out of my house, the squirrels, the possums, the 9 raccoons, the birds, the rats. It was either that or designated a national wildlife refuge. Now, Mike had quite a menagerie at his own home, and I was curious, so I photographed him, and some of his animals were possums, an albino raccoon, and this iguana. So I asked around some of my colleagues. A lot of the guys do this. We're trying to do this eye contact thing. It's simple. You bring an animal, you put it on a seamless. I said, what do we do? They said, well, you know, all animals are food motivated. All you have to do is really kind of provide the set, and this is going to work out for you. Oh, I thought, okay, that's cool. Well, mistakes were made. Yeah. The idea here was to photograph these. Yeah. Exactly. These superstars of animal cognition, these are famous animals. Years of research had been done with them. Books had been written about them, scientific careers. And I was going to become the Annie Leibovitz of animal photographs. And it was going to be all about eye contact and lighting, right? Well, it's hard to do that when an animal won't look at you. And with some animals, like this lemur, every time I picked up a camera, boom, he was gone. He'd shoot away. And my career, like the lemur, was vanishing before my eyes. You don't get a lot of second chances. And I thought, why is this happening? Why am I being punished here? What have I done wrong? I went all the way to Austria to photograph this marmoset. His name is Momo. He's really smart. Okay, big deal. And he smells really bad. And his head is the size of a walnut. And he hates me. See, it looks calm to you, doesn't it? No, it's not. See, he's peeing on me. He's peeing on my equipment. And he's telling his marmoset friends to pee on me and pee on my equipment. And he screamed at me. And he wouldn't stop. And he told his friends to scream at me. And I began to think that even fish were screaming at me from underwater. This is a Gunnison prairie dog, and he screamed at me too. Scientists believe these guys have language ability, sophisticated stuff, right? It's not like, bad things are happening. It's like, there's a guy from National Geographic, he's going to come here and take our picture. This guy screamed at me on the phone. And he's a rescued prairie dog from Phoenix. He was hit by a car, and his name is Speed Bump. And he lives in Wabash, Indiana. And so I didn't know what to do. I couldn't take it anymore. I started to scream at him, back at him. And I started to interview him like a press conference, rapid fire. Mr. Bump, how are the winters in Wabash? What do you think? All this kind of stuff. And I sang to him. I did everything I could. And all of a sudden, he just stopped. So, you see, with Speed Bump, I discovered my inner Dr. Doolittle. And I embarked on this new career. If I could just talk to the animals, show this respect and patience and things I didn't have much of, to be honest with you, I might find what I was looking for. Now, this is Konzi. He was a real test for sure. Anybody know Konzi? He's a bonobo. He's a pygmy chimpanzee. He understands about 3,000 spoken words. It's incredible. So now he communicates with humans using this vocabulary that's drawn from like 350 symbols. It's lexicograms. And they're printed on a sort of like placemat, laminated thing. He walks around with it, and he makes complex sentences. Konzi wants this now with this person there. It's not like pointing to the thing. And the lexigram for an orange may not look like an orange. It's real sophisticated stuff. So I got there, and they said, well, what have you brought for Konzi? I said, I didn't bring anything. I brought my lights. So we have to ask his permission, and we have to ask him what he'd like. And so they, and Konzi, and they interpreted that as Konzi would like Starbucks coffee for he and his bonobo friends. And so I had to send my assistant back into town to get 6 grande coffees with the simple syrup for him and his bonobo friends. And Konzi, every once in a while, will do this sort of thing where he'll go, and 2 grown-ups will chase each other through the halls. And it's his entertainment. We're around for entertainment. Now, you'll notice that he never really quite looked at me, and it was intentional. No matter what I did, I could never get him to make eye contact. He's a very, very cool guy, and very, very sharp. And I'm glad to have gone out and done it. On the other extreme of this is Weck. She's a New Caledonian crow and lives in Oxford, England. And when she's not trying to poke the eyes out of visiting National Geographic photographers, which she did for 2 days, she excels at problem solving, creating tools from materials she's never seen before to solve problems she's never been presented before. The example is they would take a test tube and put something she wanted at the bottom of it, food, and present her with things that you could make tools from. Now, what they didn't know to this point was that these animals can make tools, which is different than using tools. Chimps do this, humans do this. Very few animals possess this capability. And Weck could take something and fashion a tool from it to reach into the test tube and get the thing out of it that you were looking for, from something she had never been presented before. It's amazing stuff. Now, this is Betsy. Betsy is so famous that that's not even her real name. I'm not kidding. She's a border collie living in Vienna, and she has the vocabulary of a toddler. She can hear a word once or twice and know that it means something. She can link photographs with an object in the photograph. The example would be to show her a photograph of a teddy bear, and let's say it's Randy, right? And say, go find Randy, and send her into another room full of these stuffed animals. She'll look around, and she's pretty good, and she'll find the thing in the photograph. Bring it back to you. 2 or 3 times, come back in 6 months, she's got it locked in. It's an incredible thing. We put Shanti here. She's a 9,000-pound Asian elephant. We put her on an enormous white seamless background. You know, they're among the most intelligent animals. They grieve, mimic behavior, they have language abilities, memory. But when they look in the mirror, they see themselves. And it's a rare cognitive accomplishment that we know is only shared by great apes and dolphins and some humans. At the Bronx Zoo, elephants were put in front of mirrors, and at first they treated the mirror as an object, as you might imagine, but then they started to check themselves out. They'd lift their trunks and they would look at things in different places. See, for the longest time, science could just never accept what most pet owners know, is that animals think and feel, but proving that they have thoughts and emotions is a lot of what this work is about. And the scientists consider this a collaboration between them and the animals. Their work teaches us about the boundaries of humanity. It's really exciting stuff, but it's about these characteristics that are distinctly human and things that aren't. This is a lemur at Duke. His name is Aristides, and they used to think these guys were not so smart. They're primates, but they're on the lower end. But he learns like a toddler does. He's learning how to count. He uses a touch screen with his nose, and a lot of this stuff is food rewards, right? So you do this right, this sequence, you get something, but they have very great enthusiasm for it, so they don't need to be fed. They just like to do it. And rats, they may or may not have a sense of humor, but they laugh. There's a guy at Bowling Green, his name is Yak Pengsep, and they call him the rat tickler. He takes rats and he tickles them, and they laugh. And so they're trying to figure out, they play jokes on each other and stuff. And there's not a day that goes by where we don't learn something about honeybees, right? They're really highly evolved socially, and they have this complex behaviors of communication and navigation. They learn colors and scents, and they can map their environment out, all with a brain the size of a milligram. It's a little tiny thing. And now, according to some work, we find out they might have emotions. They might possess pessimism. This is a scrub jay called Psychobird. And they plan for the future. They take these birds, and when they go to sleep at night, they wake up in 2 different rooms. And in one room, in the morning, they feed them breakfast. In the other room, they don't. And after a while, they give them the option to feed at night. And what they do is they do this thing called caching. They take food, put it in their mouth, they hide it, and then they can hide it in a certain place and come back and get it later. These birds all hid it in the room that didn't have food in the morning because they didn't know if they were going to wake up in that room. Now, the caching thing is extraordinary because he's caching right now, right? And every time I'm not looking at him, he'll go bleh and spit it out because he's afraid I'm going to know where he's hiding it. So they'll hide it, but then if they think they've been seen hiding it, they'll be like sneaky and they'll hide it somewhere else. And you know, chimps are our closest relatives, right? We got 99% of the same DNA with these guys. And we studied them for a very long time, since the 50s, right? Jane Goodall, and they make tools. And these guys, they love and trust, they have morals, they fight, they forgive, they cooperate, they have culture. And they have these unique ways of doing things, problem solving, social responsibility, and it's all spread by learning, mostly by women. Females, like Georgia here, will pass these cultural traditions on to the other chimps and keep this thing going. These are cichlids, and they're really crazy. They have this thing called transitive inference, right? And it's the same kind of logical reasoning that we use when we go into a bar and we don't pick a fight with the tallest guy in the bar. And these fish, in order to get ahead in their social rank, need to keep fighting. So they fight a fish, they get their colors, they get ahead in social standing, and they start fighting again. But they know not to pick a fight with the wrong guy. And it's just like step on the way to logical reasoning for a fish. Sheep have facial recognition. They recognize faces of other sheep, up to 50 of them for like 2 years, and up to 10 humans for 2 years. It's amazing. This is AZ. He's a magnificent animal. He comes into the room and well, that's actually life size. Orangutans, above all the great apes, they're contemplative. They make choices that are logical and they're thoughtful, maybe more than chimpanzees. This is a Pacific giant octopus. They have personalities, they use tools, they recognize individuals, and they play. David Lichtwager, whose photographs grace the side of the building here, told me a story. And he said at the Monterey Aquarium once, he was doing a tour with an entourage that included the Dalai Lama, who was dressed in his robe. And they passed the giant octopus, who was, as they often are, way in the back of their tank, and he was mottled tan. And the octopus saw the Dalai Lama come through the room and leap to the front of the tank, put itself on the edge of the tank, and change to the color of the Dalai Lama's robe. They're pretty sneaky. In Seattle, they had these guys, and they would, at night, they'd block the air pressure, and they'd blow the tops of their tanks. They'd sneak off into the other exhibits, eat the other fish, go back to their tanks, leave in a trail of water, and go, man, I didn't see nothing. This is Alex. Alex could use 100 words, and he had the intelligence of a 5-year-old. He could count to 7. He knew same from different. He knew larger from smaller. He would talk to you. Would you tickle me? And I said, sure, show me where. And he put down his head, and he lifted the feathers up on the crook of his neck. And so I tickled him. And he said, could you tickle me on the chair? And we went and sat on a chair. And we had this delightful afternoon. It's true. He passed away at 31, which is young for a parrot. And when he died, his obituary was in the New York Times. That's how famous he was. It's true. It's true. So our relationship with animals is constantly evolving. It's a really fascinating thing to me. And probably the single most important part of this is domestication, right? Millions of animals on the planet, right? There's like 14 large mammals that have been domesticated. Nobody knows why. Nobody knows how. All dogs come from wolves. And as a result of all of this evolving over the years, dogs are changing. It's because domestication didn't just happen, it's still going on. So these researchers at Duke are telling this dog that there's food under both of those cups, and there isn't. So one of them tells the truth all the time, one of them doesn't. And the dog is figuring out which one's telling the truth. And then they mix it up. It's an amazing thing. So you have these things that happen to an animal once we've domesticated it, right? But across the board, what we've done is lost all the wild animals. There are no wild cows anymore. right? Wild aurochs were the originals, right? So we've lost all of that. And we have only a few animals that can go back. So pigs can go back and be feral. Cats can do it. We think now that cats may not really be domesticated, they just might be tolerating us. It's true. They chose humans. So the question for me next is really about, over this 10,000 years, how does an animal that's intended for the dining room, how does it go to the living room? This is a pot-bellied pig that lives in St. Paul, Minnesota. Her name's Daisy Mae, and she's blind. And when the owners got it, they almost had to get rid of her because there was a law in the books. It said, you know, cougars, lions, pot-bellied pigs were vicious animals. And so they changed laws because of this pig. It's pretty cool. This whole idea of exotic pets is kind of hot button, right? Everybody's a little bit conversant in it. We always see something on the news about it. I wanted to do a piece on the relationship humans had with these animals. What possessed somebody to want to have one? I didn't want to judge them. I wanted to give them their piece. So it's a capybara going for his afternoon swim in Texas. He's a jumbo rat, 130-pound rodent. Pretty cool guy. And this is one of my favorite of all time. It's Dilli. She's beautiful, isn't she? She was born in 2004. She was an Amish breeder who had an animal that was going to probably die. And in the middle of the night, he called up his local veterinarian, Melanie Butera, and he sort of got somebody to drive him to her. And Melanie took care of this animal, brought it back to life over a long period of time. And now Dilli lives in her house. This is on the second floor of a house. She goes to the bathroom in the kitchen on towels, eats spaghetti from a plate, goes up and down a set of stairs. And she's the most wonderful animal I've ever been around. She really is extraordinary. And, you know, she has her own webcam. You guys probably have that. There was a point there where she got a little freaked out because somebody came by with that Burt's Bee stuff, and she thought it was a bee, and so she was afraid. And so she slept on the floor in a different place, and she wasn't visible on the webcam. This webcam has 1 million unique visitors per month. And Melanie got emails from the International Space Station saying, "Where's the deer?" This is Albert. Yeah, this is his bedroom. Yeah, and this is a 12-foot Burmese python. Now, he's holding that python for me. I'm going to come clean with you on that. Because his room is full of every one of the most poisonous, venomous, aggressive snakes on Earth are all there. So he's got these Egyptian cobras and king cobras and Australian browns. And on every one, it's like the Museum of Natural History in there, doesn't it? And every one of those cages, these things, has a little thing on it listing what the animal is and what the antivenom is. And on the door is a list of directions to the hospital that has the antivenom. Because he's been bitten 100 times. And so he's like, "Hey, you want to bring the king cobra out?" No, I don't. He feeds, he's single-handedly figured out how to deal with this invasive species thing in Florida. He feeds smaller pythons to the cobras. Chops them up, gives them to the cobras. Here you go. Not this one, but he did that. Now, the one thing I should tell you is that none of these animals are truly wild. These are captive-born animals, and they've been very, very far away from any wild bloodlines. They can't go back to the wild because they never came from the wild. Melanie Typaldos has this big capybara, and she's home every day. He goes for a swim at 4, and she'll feed him in the pool. And his name is Gary, which is short for Garibaldi rus, R-O-U-S, rodent of unusual size. He's 120 pounds, and he's 3 years old, and this is her second one. And this is not an animal that takes kindly to humans, right? You have to earn trust with this thing. And they have an incredible relationship. And Mario Infante and his cougar, Sasha, this is his child. And I went down there, I got to tell you, I saw it, and it was a real bond. It was not like a trophy for this guy, because nobody's going to find him, you know. Really, really an interesting situation. Now, that's cute, isn't it, a little cat? Now, that's a bobcat. It's 6 weeks old. It's going to grow up to be a big bobcat. Now, a lot of people raise these things and have a huge human imprint on them when they're little. so that hopefully when they get to be bigger and they go off with somebody, that they'll retain that they may not chew their face off, kind of thing. It could be very dangerous with these animals. I want to understate that. But, you know, she raises them, they follow her around the kitchen, she has them around her dog. And it's at this point where this whole process starts. Some breeders are great, some breeders are bad, and there's a whole cycle that can go after this, because what are you going to do? If it gets too big to handle, people don't know what to do with these animals. And it's across the board with big cats and bears and things like that, as you'll see. This is Mike Stapleton. He's in Ohio. He has 5, 6 tigers. And he's suing the state because they've decided that they're going to take all these laws back a little bit. And you're not going to be allowed to have one of these animals without huge bonds. So these are all rescued animals. These were probably photo tigers when they were cubs. People had their picture made with them. And then they get too big. And then at a year, they go somewhere else. And they're down this path. Where are they going to go? They're not going to go to a zoo. Zoos won't take them. They don't have the room for them. And there are only so many refuges. It's pretty tight. The one wild animal I did photograph, this is actually a real nuisance gator, and the guy with it is Bob Freer. And he got his first alligator when he was 6. His dad stopped at some roadside place, bought him a gator, and threw it in the back, said, here you go. And so he's spent his entire life now, he's got this place called Everglades Outpost, and he rehabilitates wildlife. Because lots of crazy stuff comes into Miami International Airport, and so he's got like snow monkeys there, and he's got bears. But he loves gators ever since he was a kid, and so he wrestles gators. He's been an alligator wrestler for 30 years. And I said, man, what's the relationship with a gator like? What do they want? He said, they want to be left alone. So, you know, I don't know what an exotic animal owner looks like. I thought, what if we took the same animal and we did different owners? So this is at a thing called Skunk Fest that was in Ohio, too. And we photographed a little cross-section of some of the owners of skunks. This is Travis, and he's a DJ at a strip club. And Nikki's a mother, too. She's got a skunk. And this is Melina. She's 16, and she dresses up like skunks. And then you've got Maggie, who's 12 on the left, and Sean's a technical engineer with his skunk, and Sherry's a housewife in Pennsylvania with her skunk. But I can tell you, honestly, the bond is true. I want to leave you with something that a lot of what these animals have taught me is patience. You need it, because you can't make an animal do what you want it to do. So we photographed a hedgehog for the cover in December. And, you know, like the little Gunnison, you know, I could yell at him. When you do that to a hedgehog, it turns into a pine cone. And so any slightest movement, and the thing goes back into a pine cone. So this fellow Brandon Harley's a kid who raises these guys. We took 9 hedgehogs and spent a day photographing them on a seamless to try to make a picture. And this is a little piece on what we did. Thank you. That's all I got.